Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you're all doing very well this Sunday morning. We're now starting with a book called Exodus, and it follows right after the story of Joseph. Now, Joseph and his family lived for a very long time in Egypt, and finally they all passed away. And then other people that were also part of Joseph's family, continued to live in Exodus. In the time of Exodus and in Egypt. So that's where our story continues today. And you might be wondering, we're going into Christmas time. Well, are we talking all about Christmas stories? But you will see soon enough how this story actually connects so much to the Christmas story. So, boys and girls, as always, we're reading out of the Bible, the Holy Bible, God's Word, God speaking to us. So we always need to be listening very carefully to what he is saying to us. We will first of all be reading from Exodus 1, verses 6 to 11, and then we will read Exodus verses 22, also from chapter 1, and then Exodus 2, verses 1 to 4. So it's a few different passages. I'll just say it again. Exodus 1, 6 to 11, Exodus 1, 22, and Exodus 2, verse 1 to 4. And of course, we will be reading out of the New International Reader's Version, which can be found on the YouVersion app. So, boys and girls, let's listen very carefully about what happens in the book of Exodus. Joseph and all his brothers died, so did all their children. The people of Israel had many children. The number of them had greatly increased. There were so many of them that they filled the land. Then a new king came to power in Egypt. Joseph didn't mean anything to him. "Look," he said to his people, "the Israelites are far too many for us. Come, we must deal with them carefully. If we don't, there will be even more of them. Then if war breaks out, they'll join our enemies. They'll fight against us and leave the country." So the Egyptians put slave drivers over the people of Israel. The slave drivers treated them badly and made them work hard. Then Pharaoh gave an order to all his people. He said, "You must throw every Hebrew baby boy into the Nile River, but let every Hebrew baby girl live." A man and a woman from the tribe of Levi got married. She became pregnant and had a son by her husband. She saw that her baby was a fine child, and she hid him for 3 months. After that, she couldn't hide him any longer, so she got a basket made out of the stems of tall grass. She coated the basket with tar. She placed the child in the basket. Then she put it in the tall grass that grew along the banks of the Nile River. The child's sister wasn't very far away. She wanted to see what would happen to him. So that's the story for today, and it ends actually a little bit on a cliffhanger, meaning that we don't know what's going to happen next. It's actually a little bit scary. But one thing that's important to notice is, do you remember way back when we spoke about the promises that God made to Abram? He said that Abram's people would become many, as many as the stars are in the sky, as many as there are sands along the ocean and in the ocean, and that's a lot. We can't count that. And at the beginning of the story of Exodus, we hear that the people of Israel had many children. The number of them greatly increased. There were so many of them that they filled the land. So full of Egypt, there were children of Abraham. So we can see that God is actually still fulfilling his promise that he made to Abraham quite a while ago. And now if we look at this new king of Egypt, who is ruling now, he has started to treat the Israelites, the people of Abraham, very badly. They have become slaves. And now even he asks that all the Hebrew baby boys should be thrown into the Nile River. How horrible can that be? But if we look at the promise that God made to Abraham and how we can see that he actually fulfills that promise. In fact, there are loads of Israelites now in Egypt. Perhaps he will actually also help the Israelites here in Egypt while they are suffering, while they're being slaves. And then we hear a very, very interesting story towards the end of the lesson today about a man and a woman that had a baby boy. And as you know, the king said that the baby boy shouldn't live. They should be thrown into the river. But this mom and dad, they really, really loved their boy. And they couldn't take it into their heart to show their boy to the Egyptians because they knew that they would want to kill the boy. So they hid the boy, and then eventually when they couldn't hide the boy any longer, his mom made a special basket for him. She put tar around it so that it wouldn't drown when she puts it in the river, and she hid him in the tall grass in the river. And I want you to think, do you think God will protect this baby boy? Do you think he will look after him? And I'm sure some of you actually already know who this baby boy is and what his name is. So very exciting. We will hear what happens next with this baby boy in the basket next week. So let's think of a couple of questions. First question, which of the promises that God made to Abraham are being fulfilled at the beginning of the book of Exodus, the part that we just read? Then second question, the new Pharaoh says that all the Hebrew baby boys must be thrown into the Nile River. Do you think that God will still help his people? Think about it. And then the last question, third question, who do you think is the baby boy who is placed into the basket? And that's all we have for today, boys and girls. I hope you have a very, very special day. And I want you to remember that God always keeps his promises. Please remember that. Okay, well then I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.